Oh my days, have I got such a cool deck to show you today. I'm blown away with how quick I got to 6 wins on the spin with some crazy combos using some random commons, uncommons and one bonkers new god. Hey everyone, Hex here, and today I'm doing over 20 damage each turn with some very janky cards. But before I start, don't forget to like, and if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe below. It massively helps out, and I want to thank you all for the support that you give this channel. But onto this deck, and today I'm going to be showcasing the power of Ojer Axonil and how you can easily ping your way to victory. So Ojer, and I do hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, is a 4/4 trampling god from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. It says if a red source you control would deal an amount of non-combat damage to an opponent, that source deals damage equal to Ojer's power instead. When it dies, return it to the battlefield transformed as Temple of Power. This is a legendary land that for 3 can transform back to Ojer if you've done 4 or more non-combat damage from red sources this turn. So our whole game plan is to surprise our opponents with this, and using cards that normally ping for just 1 damage, suddenly win out of nowhere by doing 4 damage left, right and centre. So what cards can do this well? There are plenty. I'm going to start with a new one though in Sunshot Militia. It's a 1/3 common for 2 that says tap 2 creatures or artifacts to do 1 damage, activate as a sorcery. I won countless games with this card today, even though it doesn't look good at all. Suddenly all our non-land permanents are basically 4 damage machines. To see how powerful this can be, look no further than Voldaren Epicure. With Ojer on the battlefield, Epicure enters, does 4 damage. Then the Militia can tap it and the blood token for another 4 damage. Then tap Ojer and the Militia itself for another 4 damage. That's 12 damage out of nowhere. The damage just doesn't stop. The black in our deck is for Oni-Cult Anvil, 4 damage each turn. We can block with our creature. We can gain life back as well. It is the perfect card for our deck. We have Flamebreathers, Thermo-Alchemists and Kumanos for even more pinging, Virtue of Courage for some early and late game value, with Voltage Surge to help deal with any creatures in our way, but most of the time we don't even need to attack at all. I'm playing Vital Go for the Throats, Fanatical Offerings which let you sacrifice a creature or artifact to draw 2 cards and make a map token, and finally Molten Collapse. This is a great card in Rakdos decks, as for just 2 mana you can either destroy a target creature or planeswalker, or destroy a target non-creature non-land permanent with mana value equal to or less than 1. If you end up descending on your turn, you can even choose to do both. Today I have 23 lands, including the new Restless Vents that for 3 mana become a 2/3 black and red insect with menace that when it attacks you get to discard and draw a card if you wish, and that is the deck. I'm truly blown away by how good this is done today. It genuinely turns a lot of low power creatures into absolute killing machines. We are resilient, we don't die too easy, so we're able to hold firm until we get to our god, and even us just casting it might be too late for our opponents because we can normally do so much damage at that turn. I urge you to give it a try if you like Anvil decks or explosive decks using underutilized cards. But if you however have any thoughts on this deck or the new Ixalan set, you can let me know in the comments below. Find me over on Twitter, and as always, thank you for watching. Okay, on the play, really nice hand here. We have our early plays and we have our god in Ojer Axonil. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. I found that pronunciation on Reddit. Opponent with a Thicket and a Crawling Chorus. Right, looks like we're up against a toxic deck. And I'm not sure if any of the cards from Ixalan would have made it into their deck. So, pretty happy I know what we're up against. But we'll play the Militia. It is a 2/4 as it comes down with an extra counter from the Kumano. That's a Duelist. But yeah, our 2/4 blocks quite nicely here. Another Militia there. Okay. I think if we can get this Ojer onto the battlefield, we are in such a strong position here. So the Militias need to be tapped as a sorcery. So we want to do it now if we just want to do any damage. And I'm keen just to do 1 little damage to our opponent. It might come back at the end of the game and be the 1 damage we need to take the game over the line. Our opponent has an Alex Sentry to deal with our 2/4. Fair enough. So we go down to 17 and 3 toxic. But we'll play our 4/4 here. And we are certainly going to tap our 2 lowly creatures first, just to do 4 more damage. Opponent down to 14. By drawing the Epicure, I believe we have lethal in our hand. Pretty sure we can do 20 damage on board, which sounds crazy with this common in this militia. But Ojer here is absolutely going to take over this board in a second. That's Skrelv, and I'm pretty sure, unless they have a removal spell, which they don't, it's another chorus. We should have lethal. We find an Epicure, so that's even more. So one of these does 4 damage to our opponent. The other one's going to do another 4 damage to our opponent. And then our militia can tap away the blood tokens, 4 damage. They can tap the Epicures for another 4 damage. And as you can see, we have 4 more creatures if we cast the Flamebreather to do another 8 damage. Okay, on the draw. Hand is pretty nice here. I am absolutely loving this deck today. I feel like I've never had a stronger day 1 deck than this one. It's literally my first few games. I'm finding it hard to find any fault really at the minute. Opponent with a Dread Knight. Looks like they're on Golgari. And as long as we can get our God onto the battlefield here, we should be good. This time we'll play the Anvil and we'll get that one moving. We'll get a little artifact token, and yeah, Anvil and Ojer, absolutely amazing. Marriage made in heaven, those two. We'll see what the opponent's up to though. They are hovering over our Anvil. They attack with their 3-2. And what's their follow-up play here? Alright, Terra Sunder on our Anvil. Slightly disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. So just want to find our 4th land drop. I'm glad that they used the Terra Sunder on our Anvil there and not on our God. But we'll hit the opponent down to 16, which is technically just 4 pings from our deck with our God on the battlefield. They get in there with their 3-2. That's a Tortoise. Okay, well, no problems with that. And that's a Mirrex. Excellent. All right, well, this is going to be great because we can play our Ojer. And we don't need to do anything at this exact moment. We can tap the Alchemist for 4 damage to our opponent at instant speed. And unless they kill this creature right now, we absolutely have lethal in our hand. They get in there with 6 damage. I'm sure they know what's coming. I am crossing my fingers, hoping they don't have a go for the throat for our God here. It's Old Rutstain. Alright, I believe that should be okay for us. So cut down that they mill there. And yeah, we can do 4 damage with our Alchemist. This is insane. Kumano, 4 damage. A 4 damage Kumano. It was already a good card, but now it is just unbelievable. And how many different ways can we win here? I haven't done the math here, but I'm pretty sure we could have done 5 or 6 different ways to do about 20 or so damage. We will ping the opponent for the last 4 damage. And yeah, resounding victory there against a decent Golgari deck. Okay, on the draw. No Ojer this time. Fair enough. But we have a new card in our mana base there under the Restless Vents. I do want to play a Epicure onto the battlefield though. Get that moving. Get a blood token so that Anvil can start firing off before we play our tap lands. Opponent with mono black, it seems. They've definitely got something in their hand. And it's an Edict to take care of our 1-1. Should have attacked first. Missed a point of damage. I doubt they would have used their Edict before we cast the Anvil. But anyhow, opponent down to 18. And yeah, looks like a mono black. I have no problems playing mono black. What I love about our deck here is we don't even need to attack most of the time to win the game. We can just sit back behind these militia, the Anvil. Opponent with Lily, making us discard, okay. Not respecting my 1-1. Alright, well let's drop this Vents, as we did draw our Ojer there. This will mean that next turn with our Mirrex, we can fire that out. But we will play the Anvil here, and 2 Anvils on the battlefield is Going to be insane once we can get our god onto the battlefield. We'll save the second one for the opponent's turn in case they want to target one of ours. We can sack it. Bloodletter of Alkazots. Not that a difficult card to pronounce, but essentially it's a 2/4 that doubles damage from black sources. I think it's any source actually just does double damage. And we will sacrifice one of our 1/1s here to ping our opponent down to 16. Another land. Who cares? Because we get our Ojer onto the battlefield. And now we can start doing a huge amount of damage here. So 4 damage with one of our anvils. We can do 4 damage with the other one, but again, we will wait for our opponent's turn. They absolutely have to kill our 4/4 this turn or they are dead next turn. It is just a swamp. They're going to make us discard, which they do. And yeah, I don't know how they get out of this. They can't, can they? Just use our anvil here. Sacrifice one of our 1/1s. 4 damage to our opponent. And there is another god for us. In case one isn't enough, we have a second one in our hand. But we'll just use the anvils here to take us to victory. We could have also attacked with our Ojer, forcing a chump block with their 2/4, but no need. Okay, on the draw. Hand looks fine. Tap land to play first, though, for us. Could have played the Molten Epicure into Anvil this turn. But I think what we're going to do is play the Epicure anyway. Okay, there is some stick. The opponent has something in their hand. We'll play Kumano. We do have our Ojer in our hand, so... Opponent with a cut down, which is fine by me. And a Graveyard Trespasser is going to eat that Epicure from the graveyard. Alright, so this may well be one of those games that we don't do much attacking. We can hide behind our Anvil and our Sunshot Militia. So in the early access the other day, someone played the Sunshot Militia against me. I think I was playing my Fight Rigging deck, and I was so impressed. It was a mono red version of this deck. They may have well have had the Anvil in it, but I didn't see it in their deck. And I just couldn't wait to try this card on day one. I love playing commons in decks that do quite well. Because let's be honest, this is a draft card at best. But pair it with our god, it is pretty amazing. Opponent with a... What did they do? They virtued our 1/1. Fair enough. So it's always a bit nerve-wracking playing against a black deck when you have a creature card that you're kind of building your deck around. But we've seen Cut Down, we've seen Virtue. Neither of those can deal with Ojer, so let's hope that that continues to be the way and they don't have a Go for the Throat in their hand. It doesn't look like it. I'm pretty sure they would have already killed it. I'm just going to sack this Anvil now whilst I can do 4 damage to our opponent in case they draw a way to deal with our god here. So we're getting down to 14. I mean, there is a chance we can win next turn with our Militia, depending what we draw. Kind of with a Sheoldred. Just a mountain, so it doesn't look like we're going to be winning this turn, but we can come very close to. So Restless Vents, we could attack with it to discard a card and draw a card, but Sheoldred on the battlefield is going to make us also lose some life. Because have you heard that Sheoldred is a good card? I think we will tap away 2 of our creatures here to do 4 more damage to our opponent. Could also do it again for another 4 damage, but we might die depending on what they've got. They have a Foundry in their mana base. And they get in there with their Shelly. Well, I am not blocking that one. We go down to 12. The Trespasser's going to gain them a life. Or not, there's no creatures in the graveyard. Alright, can we do 12 damage to our opponent? I think we might be able to. The Epicure is going to do 4 damage as it enters the battlefield. And we can tap all of our creatures with the Militia to do another 8 damage. So this, unless they can deal with the fact that we're going to be tapping our creatures here, because the Militia is a sorcery speed ability, but yeah. I mean, we've got another 4 damage here. Wow, this is just so powerful. Alright, on the play. Yeah, I like this hand. It'd be nice if we could afford to wait for things like Kumano until we have the Ojer onto the battlefield, but what you gotta remember is that most of our cards do 1 damage. In one way or another, they do damage, so it doesn't matter so much if we play our early pingers on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, or turn 5. We should be good. We're up against a fellow Kumano player. I highly doubt they're playing our deck, and if they are, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they might get on here. We have Surge open if we need to take out a little creature from our opponent, but they're not actually doing anything. They've played a second mountain. They've said go. Okay, well, I'm going to cast our Militia here. Comes down as a 2/4, so it is out of lightning strike range if that is what they've got in their hand. And they don't do anything. Okay, so they've had a very slow start for mono red deck. And I'm absolutely fine with that. Okay, it's Godric. Fair enough. Comes down as a 4/4 as the Etching of Kumano is just ETB'd as well. I think we can deal with Godric. Can we race it? Who knows? Surge might be able to help, but I'm not going to worry too much about Godric. We're going to try and race them. We'll take care of their 2/2, so our Militia might be able to attack, depending on what we choose to do this turn. And let's just slam our 4/4 down. They need very specific cards to deal with that. And we can attack here with one of our creatures. No point attacking with both, because we can just tap 2 creatures to do 4 damage. So our shields are down. Can they do 15 damage to us on this turn? Because I think with the Anvil and Sokenzan in our hand, we might be able to squeeze away to win next turn. Opponent with a Play with Fire after using Etali's Scorn. And Monstrous Rage. Alright, so it's 8 damage coming at us. So they are halving our life total, basically. We're down to 7. But that's a go for the throat. That's what I like to see. So I've been thinking a lot how to win this turn, and I'm pretty certain I can take them down to 1 using the Anvil. Fortunately, our Sokenzan needs another land, otherwise we could have brought 2 1/1s into play to tap. Obviously, the go for the throat is going to be saved for Godric. We'll wait until they go to attacks for that, in case they have another one in their hand. And we'll just take the opponent down to 5. So they are dead next turn. Can they do 8 damage to us? We have some blockers if we need some. There's Feldon. Well, that ain't going to do it. I will not be blocking Feldon. And another Monstrous Rage onto their Godric. Well, we will go for the throat that before it has a chance to do anything. Opponent's suddenly down to 5 with a creature that doesn't block. So we have lethal on board. And yeah, another win there. Alright, on the draw. Different type of hand here, a little bit slower. We have 2 Fanatical Offerings, new cards. You can sacrifice artifacts or creatures to draw 2 cards and make a map token. Don't care about the map token, but it can be used in conjunction with our Militia and our Anvil. And with an Underdog. And we do draw our third mana, which is nice. I'm going to use the Mirrex token here to allow us to cast double Epicure. The Militia is suddenly looking a very good card with what is on the battlefield. Just need our God. Will not be blocking the Underdog. And we can always dig for things we need with our Fanatical Offering. That is the Celestus for the opponent, so they can start gaining back some life. So we find an Alchemist. Alright, well, I'm going to go to attacks first. And I'm going to fire off one of these Fanatical Offerings. I'm going to get rid of one of the Epicures. We could get rid of one of our Bloods, but we might need that later if we need to draw into something exciting. I do find a 4th mana in the Vents. I guess we play that this turn, so it's pretty nice mana for us to find there, as we have nothing else to do anyway. I do feel like our deck does rely on getting our god onto the battlefield, but we do stick around a lot. I think we're quite a hard deck to beat. We're not fully reliant on the Anvil, but in these kind of games, I think the Anvil is going to be important. Blocking all day, gaining us back some life. And go for the throat's nice. I feel like the mono red version of our deck here, without Anvil, misses out because they don't have go for the throat. I think that is so important at the moment to deal with some of these bigger creatures. But I'm eager to try a mono red version of this soon. We'll get the Anvil going. Opponent having a good old think what to do. They've got something in their hand. Presumably a removal spell that they don't really want to waste on just 1/1s. But we'll hold open, go for the throat, and Fanatical Offering. Really need to try and dig our way to our 4/4 here. And what I love about our deck also is that if we can find the god, we can pretty much win on 1 or 2 turns. So if they do have a removal in their hands, I do want them to use it. So I'll definitely be casting a creature next turn to try and squeeze it out of their hand. And I will go for the 4/4. Discarding, I guess, the Flamebreather or the Fanatical Offering. I think we'll go for the Flamebreather. I think the Flamebreather is a card we don't necessarily need on this particular game. But certainly getting that 4/4 off the battlefield is important for us. We'll take 3 damage. We will go down to 12. So we find a swamp. Okay, well, I don't mind having 5 and 6 lands in the deck. We could blood them away if we wanted to. But I'm going to poke the opponent down to 14 and fire off Fanatical Offering here, sacrificing our 1/1. Seeing if we can find some gas. Land and Virtue of Courage. That is going to be a nice card, especially as we have the mana to actually cast that. But I'm going to play this Sunshot Militia. If we find our Ojer, then we potentially could win on the turn we cast it. So I'm happy to play this Militia now. And they did have a go for the throat. Okay, they did have a go for the throat. So I am fine for them to use that on that 1/3 and not our 4/4. Celestus is a little bit annoying as it is making sure that they have relevant cards in their hand. They get in there with their underdog. I'm actually going to block this time. I'll make sure I don't go to a too much low life total. And we have a fair few artifacts here for our Anvil. So 13 apiece, opponent with a Sorin. I have not seen that card for a while. And they go to make a 2/3, which is cool because Virtue of Courage can deal with Sorin as it only has 2 loyalty. Okay, gonna play the Swamp. And let's get this Alchemist going. The 2/3 flyer, not a problem for me really. We're going to try and race that. I'm definitely going to deal with Sorin while we have the opportunity. And we'll just hold back on the Epicure. As Epicure is a nice way if we can find our gods to do 4 immediate damage. And suddenly the Alchemist can do 4 damage. Come on deck, let's just find the card we need. That's Shelly. could have used our blood tokens in response, but yeah, I do like the Epicure. More concerned about them gaining life than us losing life here. I think we'll just block the underdog game. We go down to 12. So they go up to 14. The Virtue of Courage can hopefully find a way to get us back into the game by finding some cards. And there's our Ojer. Perfect timing for us. We will 100% drop that now. And we have a lot of damage here because we can use our Anvils to do 4 damage to our opponent. We can use our Epicure to do 4 damage to our opponent. We then have our Alchemist at instant speed to do 4 damage. Unfortunately, our Militia is dead. And yeah, we are in a very strong position. So no attacks, unfortunately. They go back up to 8. I'm sure they're going to gain some life this turn. But with the Alchemist on the battlefield and pretty much every single spell in our deck doing 1 damage, as long as Ojer stays on the battlefield, we surely are going to win next turn. We have many ways to draw into that win with our blood tokens. And although they go up to 11, and they may well go up to a high life total with their 2/3 flyer, still pretty confident. Lord Skitter is not going to do much to the board for us to care too much about. And they get in there with Shelly. Okay, well, we can ping them. No blocks. Maybe I should have blocked with one of the Epicures, because we're on 5. We're going to go down to 3. The blood tokens will kill us if we needed to use them. We find Virtue of Courage anyway. Alright, well, that is lethal because we can just use the Thermo-Alchemist, Virtue of Courage, and Thermo again. Or we can use the Oni-Cult Anvil to get us the victory. And that is a clean 6-0 in about 25 minutes. I am so happy with this deck.